Frank's Red Hot is the perfect blend of flavor and heat, so you can use an entire bottle to make recipes like buffalo chicken dip or buffalo nachos, or even things that don't start with buffalo. Frank's Red Hot. I put that on everything.
Craig.
I'm going crazy. I watched all of Veep. But there's something to be excited about. The Cougs got a good recruit. Whoa, crazy. I drank 12 beers on my birthday.
Yeah.
I had nothing else to do but sit around.
Yeah.
I did not prepare that song very much. I prepared the first word, or first sentence, and that was it.
Sarah was like, hey, we should go drop off some beer for Craig for his birthday. And I'm like, I don't think he needs that.
Oh, and people did. So some of my friends dropped off 3 large, like full-size Georgetown growlers. And I
saw that.
Yeah, and then my mom, because E9 is shipping beer, like delivering to Tacoma addresses on Monday. I had 2 more bottles of beer arrive, so I'm definitely not wanting for beer.
Yeah. Are you okay after your birthday?
Yeah. I had the 12 different beers, and that was my goal. I drank, and there were definitely some hefty, big old stouts in there, and then a lot of sours and lambics. I drank one of the barrel-aged stouts, the Midnight Still, at midnight on my birthday, and then I went to bed, and then I started drinking about 12:30 in the afternoon the next day, and just got through all those. Amanda got home from work, helped split about 4 or 5 of the bottles with me, of the big bottles, and then I powered through a barley wine and a stout to end the night. I was actually didn't feel that bad the next morning. Like, it wasn't. I was drinking water the whole time. I ate plenty of food. Like,
that's pretty good.
I was not feeling like it, and I was doing it slowly enough, I think, that I was not getting too drunk. Now at the end is when I just took a dive, because before, a lot of the day I'm drinking like lambics and sours that are like 5 or 6, 7%, and then I get to the end of the day and it's barley wine at 13%, barley wine at 11%, imperial stout or barrel aged stout at 15%. So it's just like, by that time, I'm like, okay, I'm feeling it now. I'm feeling it. By the second barley wine, I was just like, okay.
When we called to sing happy birthday to you, I think you were pretty drunk.
Yeah, I don't know. No, that was early.
That was like at, 8 o'clock?
Oh, maybe.
Yeah, I think it was about 8 o'clock. We were eating a late dinner. And I was like, oh, we should FaceTime Craig and sing him happy birthday. So you got a very poor rendition of happy birthday from your tone deaf podcast partner and his children. So
I had to get the last beer in because it was Time Waits for No One, which is a very good birthday beer time.
Yeah.
So
that fits thematically.
Power through that one. But yeah. Anyways, this is Podcast versus Everyone, just after Craig's birthday edition. I'm Craig Powers, and with me is Jeff Newser. How are you doing, Jeff?
Sore. I was telling you, I'm getting back into running, taking my 13-year-old out running for the first time, which is awesome. And also, I'm really out of shape. So I was, long time listeners of the podcast know that you and I ran the Sound and Arrows last year. I ran the 5K. You ran is it a 10K or 12K? It's a 10K, right?
12K.
12K. Okay. So you ran the 12K. I ran the 5K. And I was, working myself back into shape. Had a goal I wanted to do to go and then do a 10 or a 12K. And then, about 2 weeks after that, I went out for a run, and I was about 4 minutes into my run, and my groin strained. And I've never had a groin strain before, and I had no idea what that felt like. All I knew was I was just like, if I lifted my leg a certain way, I felt like I was going to pass out. And so found out it was like a groin thing. Well, those things don't heal fast. And then of course so I didn't run for however long and got out of shape, and then, life gets in the way and the weather gets bad and all the other excuses. And so let myself get very out of shape. So now I'm running myself back into shape, but I'm pretty sore. And we're also, being on quarantine during spring break right now means, entertaining yourself at home. So we have decided to undertake a bunch of landscaping projects that we've been neglecting for like 3 years. And so we took care of an overgrown flower bed today, and I'm a little tight from swinging a pickaxe for a couple hours. So
yeah, Amanda now has 2 weeks off, and so she's got some landscaping ideas, but she's worried about, is it appropriate to go to Home Depot and Lowe's, and which is a fair question. But
yeah, I would go early.
Yeah, we were going to be out of town, but that's not happening now.
Yeah,
bummer. We had a Verbo and VRBO in Anaheim, and the best, since it's like independent people, the best they can do is a 50% refund or 100% credit to stay at that exact place within the next year. So we might have to eat a little money there because it's kind of hard to know you're going to go to that specific spot in Anaheim within a year. It was just kind of working out off of a work trip for Amanda, but whatever, man. At least we've been able to cancel all the flights for well, not really. You get a credit, but you have more than a year to use that money. So whatever. Yeah, it's been wild. At least I'm trying to get. I have time off, but I'm just trying to, cancel it because I don't want to take my vacation days for sitting around the house when I work from home anyway. So it doesn't matter.
Yeah. If you can move that, I suggest that. I don't really get a choice. They kind of tell me when my time off is. Yeah. They were like, "This is spring break. You should feel free to not work during this break." And I went, "Cool. Not working." So easy peasy.
Yep. All right. We luckily have some news to talk about this
Holy
week.
crap.
Some good news.
We need like one of those like breaking news, like dun, 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 like breaking news.
Yep. We're who needs sound effects, guys?
We need that dude from Police Academy. You remember that guy?
I mean, I know
we need that guy.
About. Yeah.
I don't know his name. Did all the sound effects with his mouth.
Very impressive. Made a short-lived career on it.
Yes, he did. He made more money than you and I will ever make.
Yeah. I was looking at Police Academy. Like, they were like, the first couple were like the biggest movies in the world. Like, when they came out, like, you think about how weird that is. Like, fucking, like, just weird ass, like, goofy cop movie. And it was like the #1 grossing movie in the world. Like,
absolutely.
Times have changed. Times have certainly changed.
The stupider the movie, the better.
Yeah.
That's what I always say. Definitely a sucker for stupid movies. But 4-star basketball recruits are not stupid.
No, and very rare for Washington State.
Extremely rare.
So got the news on this weekend. I believe it was Saturday, day before my birthday, early birthday present from Kyle Smith and Co. Dishon Jackson from St. Patrick, St. Vincent in California committed, and for the 2020 class, so this year's class, not next year's, 6'10", 235, and top 200 national recruit, even higher in some services. 247 rates him a 4-star recruit. He's a fringe 4-star, like very fringe, like he's just a hair under a 4-star aggregate. But yeah, it's super crazy. I wasn't expecting like this great of a recruiting piece like now. And it was a very, very pleasant surprise. This kid looks very legit.
Yeah, this is this was wild. Like when I saw this come across, we don't get kids like this, like ever, especially big men. Like,
Yep.
and he's not, he's not really your prototypical big man. He needs to grow into his body a little bit. He's listed, I think, at about like 235, 240, something like that at 6'10". But a huge wingspan, really just, you can see the skill, right away. You can see the athleticism right away. Definitely not a finished product, which, would be, with that frame, would be why he's, maybe not rated even maybe a little higher than he is. But, one of the things that, you and I always talk about just as a round number reference point is when we're talking about recruiting, top 100 recruits are the guys who really are the program changers, the difference makers. When you're talking about football, they want to, what's your blue chip ratio, right? It's, how many 4 and 5 star kids are on your roster, and you can usually figure out who's got a shot at, a serious chance at the national championship based on that. Basketball is sort of like, how many top 100 kids do you have? And Jackson is not a top 100 kid. We don't land top 100 kids. I think the only top 100 kid I think we've ever really landed is Klay Thompson. But he is like a top 150 kid or a top 200 kid. You get enough of those guys and you develop them, and you're in really, really, really good shape. So this is an incredibly encouraging commitment for Kyle Smith and his staff. This is a kid who, really should be a difference maker immediately defensively. Looks like he's already kind of got some of that shot blocking, timing down, prowess down. And you're looking at, in lieu of a grad transfer or something like that, you're looking at a real young front court with Mark Ovetsky and Tony Miller and probably this kid too. So going to be interesting to kind of see how that plays out, but he's going to get a chance probably to show some things right away.
Yeah, it's really encouraging not only to get such a highly rated recruit, especially for WSU. 247 has him listed as the 9th best recruit in WSU history. Which goes back, obviously not the entire history of WSU, but since recruiting services were keeping track. And then the only other guy in that top 9 that is 6'10" was Brock Modem. So it was Brock might have been 6'9" actually. So it's just crazy to get a big man. It's awesome to get, a highly regarded, player like that in a position of need. Big men are traditionally at WSU a place of, experimental like guys and kind of waiting on juniors, third year juniors or second year junior or, third year, fourth year juniors, even sometimes and just hoping they develop. But like you said, this seems like a kid that will have at least some marketable skills right away. And that's huge. It's something that we needed. Losing Pollard, needed another front guard. I mean, losing Dishon James, they're definitely the recruit. The front court was going to be thin before he committed. Obviously, we have another big man coming in as well.
Who I neglected to mention.
Yeah. Efa Abagidi Abagidi from Australia. So
we'll figure it out eventually.
So he's not really rated, but again, he's. We got big guys coming in. You have a couple large, bigger guards, bigger athletic guards coming in. It's this sign. And then you look at even just last year in the recruiting class that Kyle Smith put together, really threw together. When you see a guy like Noah Williams, coming in, and then a guy like Markovetsky and a guy like Ryan Rapp. You see a team that's trending towards bigger and longer and even more athletic in some places, and that's really encouraging.
Yeah. Are you saying they weren't long and athletic under Ernie Kent?
I was setting you up for that, so you can knock it down.
That's like a belt-high fastball.
Long guys like Ahmed Ali.
Like Ahmed Ali.
Yeah. And Gervais Robinson, he's,
all
pushing
of 6'2",
yeah,
maybe.
On his tiptoes, maybe.
Yeah. Yeah, that's, I mean, it really is sort of remarkable to see, we referenced this when we talked to John Andershek, a couple weeks ago, just kind of the way that they really, scour for talent, and the way that they are creatively trying to fill needs. And, you just look at this class and it's, you've got, a guy from, I think Abajidi's originally from Nigeria, if I remember right. But he's currently in Australia. TJ Bamba coming from Denver, Dishon Jackson coming from Vallejo, California, and then Jefferson Koulibaly coming from Montreal. And it's like, and then last year, you look at last year's class and you're talking about, Ukraine with Markovetsky and Australia with Rapp and Seattle with Noah Williams and, Southern California for DJ Robinson. Isaac Bonton is a Northwest kid who was at Casper College. Deion James, grad transfer. Jalen Shedd, grad transfer. I mean, they just, it's incredible the way that they do that. And it's something that, I said, for a while was necessary for the program that, when they were going to replace Ken Bone, I advocated for a coach that, really knew how to maybe scour unusual places for talent, because that's really what Tony Bennett did. For as much as people think, a lot of our casual fans think that Tony Bennett just sort of cobbled together, 5 dudes off the street and turned them into winners with a pack line defense. It just wasn't the case. He just, had a knack for identifying talent and finding it in all sorts of odd places. Obviously the famous story of, Kyle Weaver and Wisconsin and, how that all came to be. But, that's really what you have to do to be successful at Washington State. And, we are going to have more size in our front court than we've had probably since Tony Bennett left. Probably since it was, Aaron Baines and, I don't know who. Cowgill and, Casto for a minute. And, just, man, it's, I guess maybe you could say with like Rayleigh and DJ Shelton, maybe. That was pretty athletic front court. But I think there's a potential here to have maybe even some depth that we haven't had for a while, provided Abajidi's healthy. That's kind of the rumor on him, and why we don't see a lot of video on him is because he's kind of battled injuries. So who knows what happens when he arrives. But I like the position. I like the position we're in.
Yeah. And something that I've heard a lot of kind of wonder about is where these spots are coming from. Because it's not only this, even you kind of thought they were full up, and then Dishon Jackson commits, and you're like, okay, now they need a spot, and then
somebody's leaving, and
then you see them on, reportedly on like the top 5 of like a whole bunch of grad transfers. So it's you're wondering, someone's got to be leaving.
Yeah, at least one, probably two.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, the two most likely candidates to me seem to be Deron Henson and Marvin Cannon. I don't know what your thoughts are on that.
Yeah, Deron Henson obviously just didn't find a real fit this year. He got very spread, like he wasn't consistent minutes at all. Basically came in, when the offense was atrocious and they were just hoping he hit a couple threes, basically. And
or they were so injured they really didn't have a choice.
Yeah,
to turn to him.
Yeah, and so, but even at that time, even at those times, they would, you know, if he wasn't hitting a three, he was out of the game. He wasn't getting stretched minutes.
Yeah.
So you got to wonder, with bringing in all these other, you know, small forward-ish kind of combo guard type guys, and what they already have on the roster, if he would find a place. And then, Marvin Cannon he just obviously tried to leave last year, and we thought he was gone, like for sure gone. It seemed like he just, you know, kind of wanted to go back home, and maybe it was just too much of a change. And then he didn't. I know we were pretty excited that he came back because of his athletic, you know, basically his athletic ability, his defensive capabilities. But he just never really. I mean, obviously he had some injuries, but even before that, he wasn't really working himself. He never really worked himself into a serious role with the team. He did have some games. Obviously, when he came back, and then others got injured, he did pile up some minutes, but again, it wasn't very consistent. So I wouldn't be surprised if, you know, but it's so late in the game right now, but I guess it's not. It just feels like it because the national championship would have been yesterday as when we're recording this, so it's really not that late.
Yeah, Cannon was such a bummer because I thought he could be a pretty nice player, particularly defensively. Thought he could have some real impact on the defensive end, but you know, you saw really his limitations as an offensive player, and it made him really tough to play. Because he just, you know, and this is not, I'm not trying to bag on the kid. He has a skill set that works in a specific kind of way. I mean, we saw it pop up, you know, in his sophomore year playing for Ernie Kent here and there. You know, he has this ability to slash from time to time and find gaps and attack the rim and in that way. But, you know, playing in whatever you would consider Smith's system at the moment, it seemed to be a pretty free-flowing system this year with not a lot of you know, dogmatic principles that they were stuck on. But you know, Smith talks a lot about recruiting what he calls six-tool guys, you know, guys who can, you know, pass, dribble, shoot, you know, da-da-da-da-da. And it's like, yeah, of course you want guys to do all of that. But when you see it within the way it works within there, when you have a guy who's not a real good dribbler or not a real good passer or not a real good shooter or more than one of those things all at the same time, it just makes it very difficult. And Cannon's kind of like that, man. He can't create with the dribble. He's not a very skilled passer, and he's not a great shooter. So, you know, you kind of have a problem there when a guy can't really do. Really, all he can do is sort of catch and go to the rim, and you know, it just didn't really fit that well. So he's got a red shirt left. Henson's got a red shirt left. I would not be shocked at all if both of those guys end up going and find another home where they can maybe be a little more productive. Especially Henson, you know, you can see that he would be a really, really, really useful piece for somebody. Just doesn't fit on this team. Doesn't fit in the program, at least just, you know, skills wise, you know, kind of not a real skilled defender either. And that was sort of his main liability. You'd watch him and, you know, he just would be slow on rotations or communication. And, you know, if he's not, that's why you mentioned, you know, if he's not draining threes, he was out of there, because otherwise he's definitely going to be, the only way he's going to be a net positive, you know, is if he's hitting a bunch of threes. So, but he'll be useful for someone, and he'll, you know, if he's not asked to do too much defensively, and just allowed to shoot, which is what he would have done, you know, had Ernie Kent been here. I mean, he's a guy who I would not have been shocked if he had averaged, you know, north of 15 points a game had Ernie Kent stuck around. But, you know, it's just kind of it's a different situation with a different coach. So those two guys seem like ready candidates. I don't know. Do you want to talk about Elleby now, or do you want to have a break and then maybe revisit that on the other side?
Yeah, I think this is a nice time to take the break, and then we'll talk about Elleby and his draft stock on the other side.
And we're back.
All right. Well, we're talking about Henson leaving, potentially leaving, or Cannon leaving as candidates, but there's some belief among Coug fans that Elleby might be the one because he might want to try his shot at the NBA again. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I'd be really surprised by that. He is currently not on either of the two top 100 draft prospect lists that I sort of pay the most attention to. One is Sam Vecini at the Athletic, and the other one is Jonathan Gavoni at ESPN. And those two guys are kind of most recognized as the most plugged in guys in the NBA draft circles. The NBA draft doesn't quite have for those people that don't follow the NBA draft process, it does not have quite the depth of draft experts that you would think of for like the NFL draft, where
right.
There's literally like 400 self-proclaimed NFL draft Twitter experts. They've all got NFL draft in their Twitter handle and whatever. NBA is not really like that. There's really just a handful of guys, and those are two of them. Elleby's not in their top 100, which tells me that, had the draft process gone on as normal, Elleby would probably be relying on workouts. He probably would have declared again, probably would go do all the personal workouts just like he did last year, and maybe hope that a team would commit to him. Yeah, look, we will draft you in the second round, for example, if you're still there. That's probably what he would have been looking for. And now he doesn't have a chance to earn that from a team. So you kind of put the current circumstances with his performance this year, and I don't know. I don't see him going unless he just really wants to get out of school that badly, and that's the case for some kids. But he does not seem like that.
Yeah, and excuse me. I think a lot of some of the belief that he might be, I've heard people say a fringe first round guy or a solid draft pick. The two sources you referenced are both pay sites. To see the ESPN one, I believe you have to have ESPN Plus or Inside or whatever they call it now, and then and obviously for Sam Vecini at the Athletic, you have to subscribe to the Athletic to see that. When you search for X player and draft, the number one site that comes up is NBA Draft.net. And I can tell you they have not updated their projections like the entire year. Elleby was big board 28, 2020 mock 38 in the fall, and he is still listed at that. So I'm wondering how often they update their site. But I do think because they're the number one thing you see when you Google X player and draft, that might be building some of this belief that CJ is a guy that is, very likely to be drafted.
Yeah, they've got, I'm looking at them right now. They did update their mock draft on March 25th, apparently. So, and they're still apparently comfortable with CJ at number 38 to New York. But
yeah,
that seems, they've got Sadiq Bey at number 41, and he's definitely trending toward like the late to middle of the first round. So take all that for whatever it's worth.
Well, and they have Malachi Flynn being drafted, and as good as he was this year, he's still a 6'2" guard.
Right.
And I don't know. Like, he obviously would want to explore, but this is not really a year for exploring, like you said. Like for those guys that need workouts, this is not that year because you're not going to get them. I know I believe this. I know you believe this. CJ definitely can benefit from coming back. Some guys, it is what like when we talked about when Boobie Williams left for football. we didn't know how much. Obviously, it didn't turn out very well. Because he initially got a really good undrafted contract, but that didn't work out. But we didn't really know how much more he could benefit by staying another year, particularly being a running back. But Elleby, we've seen he has some limitations that might kind of hurt him in the eyes of draft scouts, particularly his ability to finish drives, get to the rim, but a lot of
create off the dribble.
Yeah. That's a big thing when you're like a 6'6" wing, obviously, unless you're a knockdown 3-point shooter, which CJ can be, but he's definitely not at the level of the last guy we had get drafted, Klay Thompson. But I know you've been thinking you see a lot of similarities in the two, and so maybe not the jump that Klay did, but how could you see Elleby potentially jump from, have the jump his junior year and potentially propel him into a draft pick that Klay had?
Yeah, I mean, that's Klay. I don't know how many people really remember this, but I know you and I definitely do. Klay didn't have a great sophomore season. He was unquestionably the team's go-to scorer. He made all Pac-10 first team. And that's sort of the source of you and I joking, because I remember writing a story that year saying, that's silly that he was first team. He wasn't. He just wasn't that good. And he was wildly inconsistent. That was kind of the big thing. He'd have games where he'd be very, very good. He'd also have games where he was very, very bad. And then his Pac-10 season was pretty forgettable. But one thing I've sort of learned from talking to coaches, following coaches, seeing how coaches vote on all league teams, things like that, they put a lot of stock in who's the guy that they have to game plan to stop. And I think when a guy transitions from not being that primary scorer to all of a sudden being that primary scorer, it can be a really rough transition. And, for Elleby to go from, as a freshman, he was, one of the primary scorers on the team, but definitely behind Robert Franks in terms of usage and being a go-to guy, to then come in his sophomore year and he's the guy. He's the guy that people want to stop. And when they do that, they're going to make life as difficult for you in as many different ways as possible. It can be a little rocky at times. And CJ definitely had his moments where he was incredible. Definitely had moments where he was very bad. And what you want is you want to get to a point where you smooth over the really bad nights and, have more of the good nights, or at the very least the bad nights aren't as bad. You have the nights where you still go off, but the nights that are bad, you're not going, 3 for 18 for 16 points. You're going, 6 for 18 for 18 points, and it's not a tremendously efficient night, but it's not the sort of thing that's gonna tank your team. If he can do that, maybe he can, rise up some boards. Maybe he can turn himself into a guy who, projects a little bit higher than we thought. And to be honest, Klay as a junior, is as great as he was with the huge jump he made as a junior. I know you and I never thought he was like a lottery pick. We kind of went, right. Really? Like, somebody likes him that much? I mean, we think he's really good, but is he a good enough defender? Is he athletic enough? And of course, I look like an idiot, obviously, for that, but,
yeah, I think the athleticism was what we were.
Yeah. God, how stupid were we?
Yeah.
Anyway. Yeah, it's CJ. It all just kind of depends. Like, doing what he does right now, playing above average defense, being an above average shooter, there's definitely a place for guys like that in the NBA. No doubt. The question is, do guys like that get drafted? And the answer is usually no. those are the guys who usually have to fight their way onto a roster. They've got to find a good spot with a team. They've got to kind of make something happen. Does he want to go that route? Obviously that's sort of his calculus that he's got to weigh. If he wants to play himself into a position where he wants to get drafted for sure, then yeah, he needs to come back next year and get a little bit better at those things you mentioned.
Yeah. And what we saw Clay do from his sophomore to junior year, he became a guy you could have as the primary ball handler. He was not a good ball handler his sophomore year. He was not, when he was relied upon to do that, it was, sketchy. We saw him be able to find more shots and create more shots and make tougher shots.
That was the big thing.
Because he shot almost 40% from three his junior year, and he took a lot of really difficult threes. And he got in the paint more. His free throw rate was roughly the same, but he hit free throws better. He was a better defender. And then he also distributed for his teammates more. So he became just a complete go-to guy, like to the point, where he was just almost everything about in the offense was about him. Like he's a guy that dominated the ball, set up his teammates when he wasn't scoring, ability to get shots. Like he was just that guy. And CJ definitely, there's those the same things. Like CJ can get a lot of shots, but he takes, a lot of like fadeaway 17-footers and stuff like that, which is pretty much the worst shot you can take, right?
A lot of low percentage shots.
And so, so we know he can hit from deep. We know he's got NBA range 3. I know he's got NBA athleticism, and he's, just a skilled rebounder, a very skilled defender, incredibly smart defender, and not only a team defender. That's why he's so good at jumping passing lanes and things like that. So CJ has a lot of good skills. He's just typically the biggest jump for a guy is freshman to sophomore year, and you could even argue that for Clay. Like he added a lot while taking on a lot more his sophomore year, but you can still refine your game and add things. We saw a guy like Clay add things to his game for years in the NBA still, because we see him do things now that we're just like, there's no freaking way he could have done that at WSU. But so CJ's got to be like that. He's got to be able to rise up into the draft board. He's got to be able to have that sort of drive, and he seems like a kid that has that sort of drive to work on his game and add those things, especially when you're in with him, where you can kind of see the light at the end of the tunnel for the NBA, but you have to work to get there, and hopefully that kind of drives him to add to his game. My general feeling is that he will stick around for at least another year and hopefully add to his game, because then the Cougs could be pretty damn good next year if he does.
Yeah. I have a lot of confidence that he is that kind of guy. He reminds me a lot of Clay in so many ways, and honestly, that's one of them. I think he has that desire to be great. I think he has that desire to work on his game. So, I'm really excited to see what he can do, presuming he sticks around. I don't know. He just doesn't seem to me he seems to me to be a smart kid. Seems to me to be someone who knows what he wants, but is patient enough to make sure he's in position to go get it. Doesn't seem like he's in a family situation where, he feels like he needs to go pro. It just seems like he can afford to wait until the time is right. And, if he sticks around for a couple more years, he'll be, I don't know, he'll probably be pushing 3,000 points, something ridiculous like that. He'll obliterate Isaac Fontaine's record. So,
yeah. He would not. Well, I mean, Clay would have too if he stuck around.
Oh yeah. No, Clay would have destroyed that.
Yeah,
but
Elleby.
Well, Elleby has the advantage of playing. So he was the number 2 guy the moment he showed up, and then he's played on high paced teams, which Clay, of course, did not really have the benefit of. Really, I don't think at any point in his career. I could be wrong about that.
Not really.
They were pretty slow, I think.
I think his senior year they got faster, just because they were better. I think that, and his senior year. I mean, his junior year. Sorry, his junior year they were fast, but obviously very, very slow his freshman year, and then kind of in the middle his sophomore year. So.
But even in his God, now you got me saying it. Even in his junior year, still only 67 possessions a game, which would be pretty darn slow right now because of the way the shot clock is, right? So Elleby also has that benefit, and I don't know how many points do you have right now. I don't know. This is gonna make great radio. I'm gonna look this up right now, but. I don't know. Talk about something else with Elleby while I'm looking this up.
Yeah, I mean, selfishly as a Coug fan, I hope he sticks around.
Yeah,
I think they have a nice little nucleus. Could really improve and be an NIT, and who knows, next year depending on what the freshmen provide and how much better guys like Rapp and Rodman and Noah get. Because we could see big jumps from those guys, and suddenly you have, I fully expect them to be a better team than they were this year. A lot of it comes down to the coaching staff being able to, have installed the defense and have a better idea of what they can do on offense. Hopefully, at the same time that the coaching staff can put CJ in better, just find better positions for him. We've kind of seen. We saw more towards the end of the year. He did a lot of some high posts when they do some screen and rolls, and when the team would switch, they would get him in the high post. So hopefully they can continue to add to that and get CJ in favorable positions. And then if you get better efficiency for him, better efficiency from Bonton and your top 2 guys there, and then maybe next year with the improvement of some of the younger guards, Bonton doesn't have to take such the load that he did this year in terms of possession usage. And so if CJ does come back, which I do think he will, and I'm more confident of that because of the current situation with not being able to work out for teams and stuff. I feel good about what this team can do next year in terms of improvement. Obviously, they still have a ways to go to improve to a tournament team, but they'll still have a very good nucleus to build on there.
So he has 1,060 points after 2 seasons. Klay Thompson had 1,023 points after 2 seasons.
He would have had probably at least if you're talking about, they would have at least played one more game in the Pac-12 tournament, and they would have played at least one more game in the CBI. So he would have been at least over 1,100.
Yeah, you would think.
Yeah.
Yep. So you figure, he has a big jump next year. Klay scored 733 points as a junior. Now that might be
that's a lot.
that might be a little much to ask for, but yeah, I mean, if Elleby stuck around for 2 more years, it's not crazy to think he'd be at or above, 2,500 points.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
And the record is, I don't know, 2,000 and something.
Yeah, it's just over 2,000, I think.
Yeah. Yep, I was there when he went over 2,000, so yay me.
Good job.
Mm-hmm. Nicest guy I have ever worked with as a reporter. That's no lie. No lie. Super guy.
Awesome.
I hope.
Yeah, it was cool. He came when Bobby Buckets broke his record. He was actually he was around, and so that's pretty cool. To come back when someone breaks your record, and even it's on the women's team, and you come back and to acknowledge her, that's pretty awesome.
Yep. Yeah, he is a super duper dude. And glad he was ours. Nice guy.
Right. So yeah, what else do we have to talk about? What?
I don't know, man.
We're scraping the bottom of the barrel here.
We definitely are. Was there something else we said we were going to talk about? Like, I can't even remember now.
Yeah, I feel like you had something. I don't know.
Beer.
But,
I don't know.
Oh yeah. What are you drinking?
Beer. I'm having a Urban Family Brewer Zeke and Destroy, which is their
yes.
Imperial IPA. It's superb. So I'm working my way through a crowler of that bad boy.
Do you know what the name reference is?
I don't actually. Do you? I assume you do since you asked me that.
Have you heard of Zeke's Pizza?
I have.
Yeah, it's made for Zeke's Pizza.
Well, there we go. I've never actually had Zeke's Pizza. Have you?
Yeah, it's pretty good.
Yeah?
Yeah, it's fine.
Do they have them down here, or are they just in Seattle?
They have one in Tacoma.
Okay. Yeah, I've never had Zeke's Pizza, so.
Yeah.
Yeah. Fun. Yeah. I don't know that I've ever had an Urban Family Brewing beer before.
That's surprising.
I'm not sure.
Pretty prevalent.
I'm kind of looking. I'm looking through my Untapped. I don't know. Maybe not. Might not be.
Well, they've been around for a while. They're probably I'd say definitely one of the better breweries in Seattle. Is particularly what they've been able to do in the last few years. They just opened up a brand new location in Ballard, moved over. Well, they originally opened in Ballard, then they were over in Magnolia for a bit, and then they reopened a new spot in Ballard. Of course, with terrible timing, as one would do, but they do a lot of farmhouse styles, saisons, sours, and stuff like that. And then they do a lot of pretty good hazy IPAs, and they've definitely done well. They've gotten a lot of notoriety for that. Yeah, pretty solid brewery all around. Definitely one to check out in the future if you like what you're having now.
I do, and I'm thinking it must just be like some weird happenstance that I've never had anything.
Yeah, I'll admit I don't probably drink them as much as I could, but maybe they're always like number 2 choice for me when I'm having a beer. I in the past they had some pretty acidic sours, like heartburn inducing sours, so I backed off from them. But I will say people told me, and some of them I have more recently, have been a lot more balanced and dialed in, so probably something worth revisiting. That you can go to a bottle shop or whatever and typically find a handful of their sours these days.
Yeah. What are you having?
I am having it's from Westbrook Brewing Company, which is a brewery out of South Carolina. This is their Fruitwood Time series Black Raspberry. It is a blend of 33% dry sherry cask matured mixed fermentation saison and 67% oak foeder aged sour beer. It was blended and re-fermented with black raspberries for 3 months in second use 500 liter Marsala puncheons.
Ooh.
So this has a lot of things going on there. It's very good. This is a bottle that was bottled in March of 2018. Definitely still a lot of good fruit on there. It isn't super tart or super acidic sour. I think part of that is because they blended in saison. That's something that Floodland, one of my favorite breweries, does, and they're able to achieve these sort of balanced wild ales. And so this isn't like I drank the 500 milliliter bottle, or I guess it's a 375. It just is no. Oh no, it's 500 milliliter. It's weird because they put 1 pint. I don't usually see that. 500 milliliter bottle, fairly easily, much easier than you would expect, than I would have expected. I thought it was going to be much tartar, but I really enjoyed it. Very balanced and good fruit. It was still pretty juicy for how old it is. And black raspberry beers are usually really good.
Sounds delicious.
So delivered on that. So good job. Westbrook's pretty interesting brewery. Obviously, they're in Charleston, South Carolina. And they've been around for a while. They've been highly regarded for a while, making some really good beers. They got pretty popular. Their Goza beer, so they hit that in like the early 2010s, and they actually do a lot of contract brewing. So a lot of bottles that you've seen from before they started canning more, but when they were doing the 22-ounce bottles from Evil Twin, like Even More Jesus and beers like that, those were actually brewed and bottled at Westbrook. And same for Stillwater artisanal ales. They also were doing a lot of contract brewing at Westbrook, or not necessarily contract. It could be sort of this gypsy brewing, or because contract brewing is basically you just give them a recipe and they make it for you. But sometimes these brewers would be there and stuff. So. But yes, it's a pretty interesting brew. They obviously have big capacity. They've also had some of the most highly sought after barrel-aged stouts from their Mexican cake series. They really, like, you see them everywhere now. These kind of Mexican chocolate stouts with peppers and coffee and cinnamon, stuff like that, and chocolate obviously. But when they did it, there wasn't a lot of those. But their Mexican cake, just the base beer, non-barrel aged, is very popular, very good. And then they have a ton of barrel aged variants. I haven't had many of them, but they kind of were one of the first breweries to figure out how to reap some of the secondary value of their beers, because they would keep some of these barrel-aged Mexican cake beers that were going for, hundreds of dollars, even up to like $1,000. One of the more sought-after ones was the Jack Daniel's barrel-aged one. It's supposed to be one of like the best barrel-aged stouts ever. I haven't had it, but I've had friends that say it's amazing. But it's pretty old at this point. But I think it was 2013 when it came out. But yeah, it's just. So if you went and visited there, if you go visit there, you'll see prices on their bottle list for like $600 for a bottle of beer, just because like that's what people were charging in the secondary market to try to get the beer, or roughly equivalent to the beers you're trading.
Yeah.
And so they were just like, screw you, we're gonna do it. And some other breweries have done it, and sometimes people get pissed off and whatever, but. Whatever, if you're a brewery, and it might be frustrating watching you sell a bottle of beer for $20 and then turns around, suddenly someone else is selling it for $1,000 and you're not making any money from that.
Well, and I can't imagine margins in breweries are all that great.
No, they are not.
So, if you can squeeze a few extra, shekels out of that without leaving it on the table, then, more power to you.
Yeah. So yeah, Westbrook, pretty interesting, good brewery. So yeah, you've probably, if you've ever had a 22-ounce bomber from Evil Twin, you've had beer brewed at their facility before.
Nice.
Yeah. So that's beer. We talk a little bit about football. I feel bad. I get these pretty much daily emails about odds and stuff from various, just because we're, write for our blog, we get these emails from these gambling services, basically. And they haven't had much to talk about lately. It's been a lot of like the esports stuff, and like the 2K stuff, and which stuff was leaked, and so it ruined the betting. But one thing that was relevant that came out today was the win totals for college football teams, and WSU was a tough one to bet on because it's right at 6, no half.
Yeah, jerks.
Yeah.
So you got to either have 5 or 7.
Yeah. There's no. Yeah. So that's a tough one because that's a big range of what could happen. If they're at 6.5, then it's like, okay, that's one game could go your way, but you're pushing at 6, and no one likes that. 6 wins. What do you think about that? What do you think that says? Is there something that says about the program that we're still getting a 6-win total when we have a new coach? One of our most successful coaches in program history left, losing no idea who the quarterback's going to be, and new offense to install, and still they put WSU at 6. So that seems pretty good.
Yeah, that does. I think I'd look at it the same way you look at it, which is that actually seems like a vote of confidence, to be honest. Now, part of that also might
not a vote of confidence from a general manager about his coach.
Yeah, right. But that the betting markets would look at Wazoo and go, yeah, probably a bowl team, or at the very least going to be in that conversation. Now, as we learned last year, as long as you take care of business against a fairly weak non-conference schedule, then you can go 3-6 in the conference and still make a bowl game. And you look at Utah State, Houston and Idaho being at home. Obviously you like your chances against Idaho, probably like your chances against Houston at home. Utah State, who knows, weird things happen in season openers on the road against Mountain West schools. So, of course there's a chance they could come out of that 2-1 after those opening 3 games, but you hope they go 3-0. And if they do go 3-0, then you go, okay, well, then they only got to find 3 more wins. And, I think that's a nod to what Mike Leach built and left behind. But I also think that's a little bit of a nod to what he built and left behind on the defensive side of the ball. So, that seems like a fair projection to me. I mean, if I was forced to put a bet down, I'm not sure which direction I'd go. If you made me put real, actual dollars on it.
Yeah, that's tough. Because there's so many variables. Obviously, they don't have spring ball, and they're going to be playing a new offense. Not necessarily. I mean, you say the same personnel and everything, but there's a lot of different stuff.
Yeah.
And so it's not in the air raid is just especially the way Mike Leach run it is such a unique, but butterfly or whatever.
Sure.
It's a rare beast, and so
yeah,
to have we have talked about how he can adapt the personnel, but actually installing the offense is going to be more difficult. And so you got that variable. Like I said, the variable of the quarterback. And then, of course, you have like you mentioned, there's not a ton of hope that the defense will be markedly better. So just to still an outsider, basically saying, 6 is, well, I mean, so obviously they're guessing what people will bet, but still just to, that people would believe that WSU is still a bowl team. We even talked about last year how I think they had like a 7-win total, and we were like, that's crazy that we lost a starting quarterback, we lost all this, and still WSU. So this is just kind of continuing that trend of like WSU has a little bit higher status as a program than they did before Leach came, obviously, and that's pretty cool. Hopefully that translates to some better recruiting and other things like that. But yeah, 6 is like, I'm just at this point with no spring ball and all that, I'm just like, yeah, please let's get to 6. But I guess there's a lot of other teams that don't have spring ball too, but they're not all installing a new offense. So
yeah, the personnel fits. We've been over that before. The personnel fits with what Rolovich is gonna ask him to do, but the teaching aspect. This system requires maybe timing and synchronization on a level that even the air raid really didn't, because the receivers are, just constantly presented with options, and depending on the defense, they can run, their route this way or that way. which means that the quarterback and the receivers really need to be on the same page as far as which direction, when a certain coverage presents itself, which direction is the receiver going to go, and does the quarterback anticipate that? So with between that and quarterbacks who have never played a snap before, which I think we, as fans, we rationalize and went, well, that's probably a good thing, and they don't have any habits that are, but to be putting someone in there without really any experience, and again without any spring practice and all sorts of other. I mean, this is a part that probably gets overlooked as well. These guys get together and do independent workouts all the time when they're on campus. The receivers and the quarterback will get together and throw the ball. They'll run routes, they'll do the thing. Coaches can't be there, but they'll do it. They can't do any of that. And then beyond that, no team activities. Obviously everybody's going to have this problem, but how in shape are guys going to be? Are they going to take care of themselves while they're gone? Are we going to have linemen who suddenly show up at 345 pounds?
Yeah, have to lock out Sean Kemp.
Yeah, what exactly is going to come back? So that's not a problem that's unique to WSU, but same time, when you're transitioning to a new coaching staff and a new schemes and new ideas, I don't know, any of that kind of stuff makes you feel like maybe it's not so great, but I mean, everybody's dealing with their stuff. And, if this team gets back to a bowl game, I think I feel really, really good about that. I'm trying not to, set my sights too high or too low. And so maybe a six win judgment there by Vegas is appropriate.
I don't know if this is correct. Would Bill Dubble be the only coach to go to a bowl game at WSU in his first year?
That's a good question. I could look that up for you real fast if you want to talk about something else.
No, I don't really want to. I'm just gonna pause. I'm just gonna put the question out there.
I can look. Hold on.
I'm just thinking back. Like Mike Price didn't go to a bowl game in '89.
All right. So Bill Doba, yes. Dennis Erickson, no. Jim Walden, no. Yeah. So that would be yes. So that would be accurate. That would be accurate.
So yeah, that would be pretty cool.
Only Bill Doba.
Change of staff, and I mean this would be more like similar to the Price departure in that the program is in a decent place. So obviously, people thought that WSU wasn't going to be as good in 2003, but they still had that defense, and Matt Kegel turned out to be, better than I think people thought he was going to be. So
yeah,
that turned out to be a super fun season.
Yes, it did. Those are always the most fun, the ones where you don't have a lot of expectations, as we found out in 2018. So,
go Cougs, yeah. Let's see. So, I am going to be again gonna talk about it again because really like the downloads are down. We know it's because you're not commuting. You're sitting at home. Netflix sounds a lot more interesting than a podcast, But yeah, like really listen to the last two episodes of the Cougs Center Hour with just going over the 1997 season. It is a blast, particularly if you're like me and you weren't a Coug fan at the time. It's really fun to relive it, and then I'm sure for those of you that were, it'll just be like a great trip down memory lane. So highly recommend checking those out. I'm going to be on that series next, not talking about the 1997 season. I'm going to talk about my trip to the 2013 USC game. So I'm really excited to. That was a pretty special trip for me, which I'll get into on that podcast. So if you're listening now, if you're listening to this on time, that'll be coming probably later this week as well. So we're still trying to keep this podcast content for you. So if you're going for runs or whatever, load up that podcast. And, get off your butt.
Believe it or not, I have some things floating around in my head that involve actual writing because I've gotten kind of lazy, and when all I have to do is talk for an hour, like, yeah, I can do that. So I have ideas in my head. I'm going to write. I swear I'm going to write something this week. Maybe 2 somethings.
Ooh.
I know.
Exciting stuff.
Call that a teaser.
But yeah. A lot of you emailed me. I gave you shout outs but I need to still respond to some of the emails. I'm really bad at that. Just ask all the bosses I've ever had. And then, I'm really good at reading the email and then being like, I got to respond to that later, and then not doing that. But yeah, so email us podcastversuseveryone@gmail.com. Follow me at the Craig Powers. Follow Jeff at Pod versus Everyone. Yeah, I don't know. That's, you're getting shorter episodes right now.
I know. That's it. This is all we got. 1 hour and 5. That's still pretty good, I think.
Still pretty good. I'm proud of us.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Proud of you,
Thank
Craig.
you. Thank you, Debbie. Well, Jeff, I'm proud of you as well.
Thanks, man.
Well, we've got hours of podcast content on this channel a week, and if you need something to do, we got you covered. You can sit in your living room, gather the kids around. I don't think we even cussed in this one that much.
I don't think so either. I think I
might have said one F-bomb at the start.
Yeah, I don't think I used any bad words.
Yeah.
Shit.
God damn it, Jeff.
Oh, fuck.
All right. Go fucking Cougs.
If you listened all the way to the end, you got a treat. Go fucking Cougs, Craig.